Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for our 28th episode. And our topic of discussion this week is from my new book, From a Black Man's Perspective. And joining me today are two of the men featured in the book. Kenny Munday is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. He is presently the head wrestling coach at UNC Tar Heel Wrestling. Rodney Howell is the owner of Hairston and Silver Fox Salons. He is also the owner of a men's clothing line called Rodney Howell Collection. Gentlemen, thank you, my dear friends, for joining me today. I am excited. Two of my most favorite men.
You are right with me, Nora. Anything for you.
Thank you, Nora. Good to be here. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Kenny. I read something that said in 2019, this was really shocking to me, that there were about 4.15 million Black families in the United States where children were being raised by single mothers. I mean, I knew that they were being raised by single mothers, but I was like, when I heard that number, I was like, dang, that's a lot. So we know that women do a great job of raising young children, especially Black males, because some mothers are single because they're widows or divorced or what have you. But there's something to be said about having a Black male figure in the household, I believe. So let's talk about the importance of our young Black males having a positive role model father in their lives, which we know that is not always often the case, but I think we want to kill the myth of that, children don't have Black male figures in their lives, because we know that that's not true.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that. You want to start, Kenny?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that it is an amazing step, and that's not always, I think the majority of probably women are raising Black men, but then you have some fathers also that are raising Black men. But it's definitely important that they have that presence. And I've seen it in my life. I have, my mom and dad are still alive, thank God. And they were, essential in raising me and having my father in the home the whole time. And, and then watching how he navigated through, good times and the bad times and overcoming job loss and disappointments and then rebounding from that and showing character and strength. I learned a lot from just watching how he navigated through all that, but then also I watched the relationship and how that the love and how that built throughout the years and how they navigated within themselves. And it's as an adult now you can understand the relationship and how relationships work and how they could be so challenging. And so watching that and watching how they navigated through it and watching how they treated each other was a big education to me growing up. Now I've got two sons that are in college, wrestling in college, and so now what I've learned through watching my father throughout the years applies to my life. So I watched the good things that he did and some of the bad things. I'm like, okay, as a father, I'm not going to do that, right? And I'm going to take the good stuff and try to eliminate the bad stuff. But it definitely makes a difference in how I raise my sons today.
Good. What's your thought, Rodney?
That's awesome, Kenny, to hear that, and I think we're exceptional because from the era that we're from, most men and women stayed together.
Right.
Even if it was a kind of bad situation, and a lot of times if it were, we weren't aware of it. Because I never saw my parents disagree in any type of way, and I think back then when raising children, it was people took pride in doing that. And of course, there were some single home parenting where it was just, a woman in the household. But I think your role model can come from an uncle, because I'm not a father, but I am a role model to my nieces and my nephews and
absolutely
and a couple of young people that I have employed over the years, trying to teach them and encourage them and trying to get them on the right path. I know I had the opportunity to raise my nephew for quite a few years as my brother's son. My brother was incarcerated, and then my nephew's mom was on drugs. So, he was on his way into the system because his grandmother on his mom's side didn't have the time to really raise him. She was older. So my mom didn't want that to happen. So it was an awesome honor for me to take that opportunity to be able to try to instill some things, in him and try to get him on the right path. But I think as far as parenting, it can come from a lot of different, avenues. If you have a good uncle or, sometimes a stepdad. A lot of times, my father was a stepdad to my mom's children that she had prior to their marriage. And my dad he's a good man. He's a great provider. And he was there for me because I was the youngest one. So he was getting older. So therefore he had a little more time to spend with me. But my sisters and brothers ahead of me, he was kind of absent because he was working. It was 10 of us. So my dad had a couple of jobs. Yeah. So he's a great provider. And I believe that he was a good dad. I think in the book, Nora, I said that he was a dictator, which he was coming from that era. It's like what my dad said was the law. Absolutely. And we had to go by it. Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that because, that's a good point that you made. Your brother was incarcerated. His mother was on drugs, and he could have very well have gone into the system. So, Kenny,
Nora, I'm sorry, he did.
He
and just like his dad, and I think it's a curse. It's a generational curse. My brother, his dad was in prison. We have different fathers. And he was in prison during the time his dad was in prison. Now my brother's in prison and his son was in prison during the time he was. And I felt kind of guilty. But as I said, I only had a few years with him. And his mom wanted him back so that she can continue collecting the check that she got, the welfare check. And I think that had I kept him and was more persistent on keeping him. Sometimes I feel kind of bad because I'm like, if I were in his life a little longer, he had chose a different path.
Wow. And we know that happens, especially with our young Black males, that a lot of times because there's no role model in their lives, they get involved in gangs. And so there's no love because they were in the system and there's no love. And from my point of view, or my thought is that, their feeling is that any kind of love is better than no love.
Right.
Because if you're loyal to me, even if you're going to take a bullet from me, that's a sign of loyalty. And in their minds, that's a sign of love.
Right.
So, Kenny, in your field, I'm sure you have had the opportunity to deal with young Black males that didn't have their fathers in their lives, or even present now that you're coaching, and there's probably single moms. And so just to have a figure like yourself, what's your thought about that?
Well, yeah, I have to kind of touch on what Rodney said earlier. I mean, you can have that influence through other Black male influences, that you grew up with, and that was certainly my case because I grew up in the YMCA. And when I first started wrestling, I had great coach. I mean, the YMCA was just a great growing ground of my childhood when I grew up, because we had great coaches, we had great leaders that was in that YMCA that really cared about the kids. And so I was in an after school program. When I first started wrestling, I'd go from my elementary school, was just like 2 blocks from the Y. And so after school, we would go, me and my older brother would go to YMCA for an after school program. And that's where we started wrestling. And so, and that was also a big influence in my life. My older brothers, my oldest brother, Mike, was 6 years older. And then Jim, my other brother, was 4 years older. And so they also provided that leadership and also provided that guidance that I could get from them as I grew up. When my mom and dad wasn't there, they filled in and made sure I was doing the right thing and kept me out of trouble. But then also, like I said, I had good coaches growing up, that kind of filled in that spot, right? And I see that now because I'm a coach and I work with a lot of young kids, and so I kind of learned from that foundation that I had growing up, helped me in my life today. But then also, it was like my neighborhood back. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And my neighborhood was just one of the best neighborhoods, that I could have had. I mean, it was like every child, was probably, 50, 60 families in my neighborhood. And we were the hood before the hood was even popular. Like boys,
Yeah.
that's how my neighborhood was known as
My
the hood.
hood.
Like, where you live? Well, I live in the hood. You live in the hood? Oh, okay. And so it was just like in Tulsa, North Tulsa, that was our area, our neighborhood, right? But every child had a 2-parent home. I mean, the majority of the kids in all the families had 2-parent homes. Both parents were working and providing, and it was just a rich childhood that I grew up with. Because, as you know, if you were outside the house and you're in the neighborhood and you were doing something that you weren't supposed to do,
The neighbors told.
Miss Johnson,
She
let you
told.
know, right? She'd get on the phone, call your parents, or
That's
she was
right.
like, hey, I had to get Kenny Boo right. I had to, I had to let him know. And so, yeah, you could get a swat from a parent in the neighborhood.
Right.
Your parents be like, okay, they did the right thing. But when you got home, you would get another one, right? So you get another swat. So, but they helped grow you. It was like they say, I mean, it takes a village, but that we had a village growing up.
Right.
And that's what's kind of missing. And like when the 80s hit and a lot of the drugs hit the street and crack hit the ground and really tore a lot of families up and a lot of neighborhoods up. And I saw the destruction of not only my neighborhood, but just a lot of other neighborhoods in North Tulsa that really took those parents out of the home and didn't have that foundation that kids grew up with. And so that really rocked a lot of families, man, that was hard to recover from.
Yeah, we were so blessed, Kenny, to have that type of foundation. That's why we were exceptional, as far as what kids are getting now. They don't have that foundation that we had coming up.
That's right.
So what do you guys think? What do you think we could do? Like you said, like we said, it takes a village to raise a family, a child. What do you think that how much more, or what do you think Black men could do to really help the situation? Because let's talk about what happens when Black boys don't have what you have. They didn't have that community.
Right.
And so there's no positive role model. And so of course they gravitate to the wrong direction, and life goes downhill. They get they're incarcerated. We know that number of Black males in prison is like crazy.
Yeah,
and so
unbelievable.
What do you think we could do as a community, as our churches, our schools, family members? It seems like it's just so much like it's about me. I don't have time.
Right. Nora, you know what? And especially now's a good time. 2020 was kind of bad year for us, but a lot of, exactly right. But a lot of good came from out of it. With my business, we're kind of slow, so I started going into other different avenues, and they have a lot of grants, and a lot of African American people aren't familiar with these grants. So one of the plans that I decided to do was to start a mentorship program for young minorities, for Black and brown children, and they have grants for stuff like that. So we're going to try to teach them entrepreneurship, financial wealth, teach them about, just being a Black man, systemic racism. A lot of young people don't know what that is, and especially those that don't have, because not all parents, but there's some parents that are on drugs, or they're not in the home, or their grandmother's raising them, their great grandma's raising them. And, they're older, so they really don't have the time, and they're tired, and trying to instill those things that a lot of young, Black and brown kids need. So there are grants out there, and I said that was something that I would take advantage of. So I have a young lady that she's writing something up for me now so that we can get it. And we're going to try to get young people that are in foster care, that age out of foster care, young people that are in youth homes, and some of them that are in jail, that are coming out. This gives them a program or something that they could look forward to and try to teach them and enlighten them on life skills,
So one of the things that my parents did. I mean, even we grew up. I mean, we would have kids that were from single parent homes and just didn't have the means to, or the transportation to get to practice. The moms didn't have the time to bring them to practice. So my mom and dad, we'd go get those kids. We'd go get kids. We'd pick them up and we'd take them to the practice. We'd take them to the tournaments. My my mom and dad would feed them. They would clothe them. If they didn't have wrestling shoes, they would chip in. And there was a couple of times I'm like, they were giving so much to these kids, and I'm like looking at them like, Mom, I need this. I need it. Well, they get me right. I said, boy, you got what you need. We're trying to help Ricky over here, right? So we would, my mom and dad would help those kids, right? When the kids that needed it, we would provide for them. So that's what it is. We got to reinvest in our youth, and I look at what LeBron James, those guys like that are reinvesting in these kids, man, and making a difference in these kids' lives. And so I think when you see the need, when you see a kid, you have to kind of reach back. And one of the things that I did with a couple of my wrestling buddies, and we started this organization called Black Wrestlers Association. And you guys can go on our webpage, and we're really trying to make a difference. Yep. And what we're trying to do is, and really kind of, it formed out of George Floyd. When that happened with Floyd, and the whole thing was going on, and we were just, at our wits' end and just heartbroken from the George Floyd thing. And we were just trying to figure out, man, how can we make a difference? We got influence, and people were watching us, and we got a voice. How could we make our voice make a difference for these young kids coming up, right? So we've established it, and we're trying to kind of work and provide scholarships for young kids coming up.
And I think we need more of that. I mean, that is like so great. And we need more of that because there's so many young Black males out there that have potential. They're brilliant, and they're smart, and they're, but just nobody pouring into them and inspiring them to do more, be more, so I love both of those programs. So let's just talk about that, the importance of that. We got to step up to the plate. Black males need to step up to the plate, and I think women have been doing it all along. Now it's like they need. I read something once, when they get to a certain age, like 12 years old or 13 years old, that's when they really need that reinforcement of having a Black male in their lives. What's your thought about that?
I say it's important. It's definitely important, and I believe that each one reach one, teach one, and it is up to us older guys and the church and the Black church to try to set up a program for our young men, so that we won't lose them to the street, we won't lose them to prison, and like you said, Nora, in the book, you said that everybody needs to be loved. So I think we need to show these young men that they're loved, and we care about them, because we know now, like I said, with what's going on with the police officers stopping and killing our young men, which is crazy. And a lot of them are afraid. A lot of them don't know what to do. A lot of them are angry when I watch these videos, and rightfully so, but they have to target that anger someplace else. You know what I'm saying? So that they won't get caught up and be a statistic when the police stop, because it's like they're out to get us. I mean, and now we're in the age where we're able to use our cell phones and we're videotaping it. And it's been going on, for a long time, but now it's surfacing because we have technology. Yeah, but
were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing, because of course I've got two college-age young kids, young Black men, and Kennedy is 22 and Quincy is 20. They're both they're both in college, and it's like when they are out and driving, we've had to have the conversation about how you deal with the police and stop, what you do, the proper thing to do to make sure you stay safe. But just for instance, one time Kennedy was coming back from a road trip with one of his wrestling teammates, and they were coming back from Georgia. And they made it all the way back to North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and they got stopped by the police. They were like 20 minutes from home, after a 7-hour drive.
Wow.
And so then Kennedy, he got on the phone. As soon as he got stopped, he got on the phone and called, "Hey, we just got stopped by the cops." I said, "Well, just keep your phone on, and I'm gonna see what goes on." Right. And so, and it's just amazing, just the police stopped him, and they try to explain to him, they were coming back from road trip and they're in school, and he didn't believe them. He wanted all kind of proof to show who they were, and unbelievable that you won't even. These guys are in college, doing the right, good kids, and he stopped because his tag was expired, right? And so, but he had just come from Georgia, and he had to get a new tag, with North Carolina tag. And so, but just that thought and the feeling that I had during that time, it wasn't normal. It's like, I'm nervous about it, right? So just keep your phone on, and I don't know how. And the thing is, you don't know, and not all cops are bad. Of course, there's a lot of good cops. I got a lot of good friends that are on the force. But it's like, my thought, even when I'm driving, my thought is, if I get stopped, I'm like, okay, which guy am I going to get? Right? Which cop is this going to be? Is it going to be, a good dude that's just doing his job, or is it, a cop, a racist cop that's got an agenda, right? Because they're out there, but you just don't know which one you're going to get, right? So it's always
that we have to fear that. You know what I'm saying? Police officers are supposed to protect and serve. Right. And us as African American men, it's like we fear the fact that, okay, if I reach for something, or if I don't say the right thing, and then if you're intimidating, sometimes you got to bring it down some. You got to put your shoulders down, just not to be intimidating to them, so that they would be afraid. But those are things that we need to have conversations about, and this something, like I said, is real. I'm on TikTok and all the social media networks, and I see all of these videos, and it's unreal the way that they treat us. And then they even have videos where you would see someone captured on tape, of course, that a Caucasian young man got stopped by the police. He's cussed the police officer out. Here, the one guy even got in that car and drove off. Took the police officer's car, fought him the whole night. They didn't tase him. They didn't shoot him. And it's like, it's crazy. What is the hatred that they have against us as African American men? And if I too were a parent and I had, young teenage men, I would be terrified as well. But we shouldn't have to be, because, like I said, the police officer's job is to protect and serve. But it's now different.
I have a really good friend, Larry DeAngie. He's an Italian guy, but he said that when people respond the way they respond to us, they fear what they see in us. They see the greatness in us. They see that we're powerful. They see, and sometimes they see in us
what we don't see,
ways that they wish they were themselves.
Right.
Because they're not that way. Even in spite of all of the hatred that goes on, we're still talking about love and compassion, and they don't get it. They don't understand.
Right.
And then, it's from generation to generation, being taught that, we've heard Caucasian people say, I've heard Caucasian people say that that's how they were raised. And it wasn't until they got older themselves and realized, wow, this is like totally, crazy. If his death hasn't taught us anything else, we saw an amazing thing happen. The world came together.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
It wasn't just one city. The world came together, and it was almost like the world saying, enough is enough.
Right.
This is we should be working in a different era, a different time. And so, so I was inspired to write this book, because I felt like I knew some powerful Black men, but I also knew some Black men who didn't have their fathers in their lives and who did have tragedy in their lives. But in spite of it all, I just wanted Black males to know, in spite of it all, you still can be successful, no matter what seed you came from. My father was a drug addict. Matter of fact, that's what took his life. And my mother raised us. She raised 4 girls by herself, and we're all successful. So life can happen, and life can be better. It doesn't mean that your life has to be a dead end. Your life has to be destroyed because your father used drugs or he's in jail, and you even experienced all that and saw all that. But in spite of it all, there's something, I believe, inside. Well, the Bible says, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world.
That's right.
Somebody inside of us. We just need somebody to bring that
out. Right. Like you said, Nora, they see the greatness in us, but we have to see it in ourselves. We have to know the power that we have. We have to know that we're from kings and queens,
Yes.
And a lot of our young people don't know that. So again, it's, up to us to encourage them. And then too, if we run into ignorance like that, we would know how to handle that situation. And like I said, a lot of the young Black men, they're angry, they're tired, but it's a way that you handle it. You know, and we have to teach our young people how to do that so that the outcome would be different.
Do you guys think that we understood it better, about slavery, what it meant, when we saw that, all that our people went through with marching and so forth? It seems like this generation doesn't really know. I mean, they see it, but I don't think that they really in their hearts know what they went through, the sacrifice that they made for them. I don't think they realize, and I don't want to say they don't appreciate it. Maybe they don't.
They don't know.
Well, I think it's just experience. It's just the experience. Right. So we the things that we experienced, in the 60s and the 70s, they didn't experience that.
Right.
I don't know if they've ever. I know my kids have never gone through the things I've gone through. I was bused. Right. I was bused in the 7th and 8th grade to an all-white school.
Oh, wow.
And, and these kids, it was like that movie, Remember the Titans. And these kids didn't want us to be in that school, or we didn't belong there. And some of the most racist kids and families that I've ever seen, I grew up with, right? And so we had to overcome that, but we had some great families, but that's just the experience that I've gone through. And I've related that to my sons, but they didn't have to go through it, but they hear the stories.
Right.
Go through it, right? But I am encouraged. I'm encouraged though through this pandemic and the social injustice that we've seen.
Oh yeah.
The people in the streets. I mean, that's why Biden is in office right now. I think that's a big reason, because that youth was ignited. They were inspired. They got out and voted. They did some things they've never done before, and so I think that was a big part of what we went through that George Floyd thing. It's ignited people, and so I'm encouraged through that. I'm encouraged that they did respond. They didn't sit back and let things happen. They responded and got to the polls,
and peacefully too.
Right.
They weren't violent.
No, it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful to see.
Exactly, and then all the looting and the rioting, those came from other people, because we don't have access to the things that I saw on one of the videos where they had a crate of brick that was dropped off on the corner. And it's like, ain't no brothers carrying no crate of bricks or what have you. It's somebody placed that there, in order for thinking that. And then all the videos I saw, the young people were saying, no, this is not what we're doing. We're not trying to loot, or we're not trying to, ruin people's businesses, because then we lose focus on the fight.
Right.
So, I just think, like I said, we have to expose our children and let them see roots, let them know because me and Kenny, I don't know about you or in school when we were coming up, African American history or whatever, all I knew was Dr. Martin Luther King. They didn't tell us about slavery or anything else. When I found out about slavery, that's when Roots came on, and it's on TV. And then I saw our history. Wow. They aren't teaching that in school. And I think it's very important for our kids to know our history and where we come from, because they are going to be affected by it one way or another, because racism is going to always, exist, even, in their work lives, or on the street, just on the streets, getting stopped by the police. They're only going to let us go so far unless we're entrepreneurs. And then they try to stop us at the bank by not giving us loans. Right. So one way or another, we are going to experience it. And I think it's up to us to teach our kids and let them know, and inform them so that they will be equipped with the knowledge and know what to do and how to handle it.
And I think we need to kill the myth that Black men don't know how to be good fathers. I mean, I tell Kenny this all the time when I, before the pandemic, I stayed at the house, and this is when the kids were home. They were in high school. And the first thing he did when he stepped in the door, he went to Kennedy's room, and then he went to Quincy's room. And I think Sydney had gone to college by then. And just to see, how was your day today? What happened today? That's so important. And because I think white America sees so much of the negative, not the positive of what is going on in our lives. And that's why I was so inspired to write this book, because I wanted people to know that our men know how to be good fathers. Are they perfect? No good, perfect father, white, Black, Latino, all mistakes are made along the journey. But the bottom line is that the love that we have for our boys, for them to be and for them to pass that same legacy on when they decide to get married or when they decide, to have children. I can remember when, I met Buddy. Buddy was like 2 years
Can
old.
you believe he's about to get married, you guys?
Now he's getting ready to be engaged. He's engaged, rather, to be married. I'm like, what?
I know, right?
So, there are those positive role models,
right.
And so we have to continue to share that. We need to. I love what you're doing, Kenny. I love what you're doing, Rodney. Those are the kind of things that I think programs or ideas that we need to bring forth as Black males or just Black people to our children,
Right.
Yeah, one of the things that I really tried to focus on in raising my kids, and I think it's something that I got from my father. My father wasn't real affectionate, right? He was there and he loved me. I understood that. I knew that, but he just wasn't as affectionate, right? So I wanted to show that I can be a stern father, right? If you step outside the line, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna let you know and discipline you. But then I also want to show you my love. I want to show you embrace. I always want to hug you and love on you and kiss you and show you that. And that's not being soft, right? That's not showing a softness, right? That's just showing love and not being afraid to, have that embrace, right? So I always embrace them. Even to this day, I try to embrace them. They try to play me off a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah, they got
right.
Well, again, there goes to show that our fathers or fathers of your father's era, they did not know. They knew how to be providers.
Right.
They did not know how to show the
affection and
the compassion, the love, being vulnerable, and showing that, because that's not what there was that thought that that's not how a man's supposed to be. That's the woman's job.
Right, exactly.
But what we missed during that era, and still maybe today, is that our children need to be loved. There's nothing wrong with hugging your son and saying, son, I love you, and you're caring and being concerned. And I think that teaches them, how to do this.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's true. And no matter where they are and what they do, in whatever life that your child chooses to take, it's still your child.
Right.
It's a blessing from God that you had them. So it's your responsibility to love them.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, love them, pray for them, ask God to direct them and lead them, But a lot of parents, sometimes I see they give up on young children, and we got to stop doing that.
Right.
Gotta be good parents.
Absolutely. Well, Kenny and Rodney, I want to thank you for being my guest on Real Conversations with Nora. Are there any last minute comments you'd like to share with the audience before closing out?
Yes, if you guys don't have Nora's book, make sure you know how to get from a Black man's perspective. There's some pretty cool guys in there, especially the two that are here on here today.
I'm so excited because we just got accepted on Amazon. They just sent us a congratulations.
Oh, good job.
Awesome.
So
it's very informative, and it's good information, and it's nice to see other guys' background. There's some positive, awesome brothers that responded in here, so it's awesome.
Absolutely. I want to say congratulations, Nora. It was just an incredible project. I'm glad to be a part of it. I mean, you're an incredible sister. I love you. Love you to life. But love your family, and I want to wish you continued success.
Yes.
You guys stay safe. But I'm so proud of you and the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Well, to our Real Conversation with Nora audience, I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to turn in, share it with your friend, have a watch party, and God bless you. We love you. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
Bye.